Hello and welcome back to One to Deploy. I'm your host, Daniel Martin, and today we are unpacking one of the biggest shifts in how people will use Google ever. Google's new AI mode is rolling out across the world. It's already live in the States, in Canada, India, and, believe it or not, in New Zealand, but yet not in Australia. When it does land here though, and as we know with Google that could be any day, any moment, it's going to reshape how Aussies search, discover, and then connect with businesses, just like yours. So in this episode, what I will walk you through is what is AI mode, how it's different from ChatGPT, that's pretty pivotal, what it means for your brand's visibility, and most importantly, how you can start preparing right now. First up, what is Google AI mode? Well, think of it as something of a smarter Google search. Now that may sound a bit fluffy, but it goes quite deep. Instead of a boring old list of blue links, AI mode gives you full screen conversational answers. So for those of you who have used ChatGPT, you would be familiar with that kind of engagement with a computer system. It pulls information from across the web and, in Google typical form, even from your personal Google data, so things like Gmail. So it really has kind of God mode access to everything Google related, even things that relate to you personally. Picture this as an example. You search family-friendly weekend ideas on the Mornington Peninsula. Now, the results that you would normally see would be a list of blue web page listings that you would scroll through for pages and pages of those results, clicking in and out, going into web pages, out of web pages to find what you're looking for. With AI mode, instead, you instantly get a tailored itinerary, right? So we've jumped straight from give me some ideas to here's your itinerary. You've got wineries, you've got beaches, you've got accommodations. There's even a map thrown in there for you as well. And you can keep that conversation going. So let's say that you've got your itinerary, you think that's pretty good. The next question that you might choose to ask is, which of these wineries is best for kids? I happen to know the answer to that, it's Port Phillip Estate. But boom, you get an updated answer straight away. All of this is basically Google search as a conversation. So you might say, well, that sounds pretty much like ChatGPT already. How is this different from ChatGPT? Now that's a fair question because on face value you might think it's the same, but there are actually some big fundamental differences that make this a bit of a game changer. Then the first one is real-time data. So ChatGPT doesn't always know what's happening right now. The data that comes out of ChatGPT is based fundamentally off two things. One is a historic snapshot of the world as it knew at a moment in time. When it first launched, the data was like 4 years old or something like that. That isn't the case anymore, but it certainly isn't live. By contrast, Google AI mode pulls live information from maps, from business listings, and this is where it gets really interesting, things like traffic data or reviews. It literally has live info from everything just the same way that you would. So as a real world example, if you were to say, I need to get to my accommodation in the Mornington Peninsula, it could say to you, okay, currently the traffic is bad on the Mornington Peninsula link, so I suggest you go Murdoch Highway. And it would send you down a different route because it has access to that real-time data. That is something that ChatGPT simply cannot get. And even if Google wanted to make it available, it would be too hard for it to consume that information. Google AI mode gives you that real-time data. Secondly, everything in one place. So you might be used to in ChatGPT bouncing in and out from website to website, back to the conversation, back to the website, read this, go here, do that. Well, instead of bouncing between Google for directions and then ChatGPT for your answers, now everything happens inside Google. We really are starting to replace ChatGPT here, at least in the context of search results. And lastly, this is pretty key, trusted sources. So AI mode actually shows you where the information comes from with clickable links. Now that might sound exactly like ChatGPT, but the reality is when you do a conversation or a search on ChatGPT, you'll see some cited websites and cited references, snippets, stuff like that. But what's happening there is that's ChatGPT doing a Google search, more or less, and then referencing some websites. It doesn't really give you a depth of trust as to which of those sites are the best for you to look at. It's just chosen what it thought was the best based off the results that Google presented. By contrast, Google has the trust data built in. It already owns it. So when it's showing you information, you know it is in fact coming from trusted sources. So the reality is with Google's AI mode, it is more than just a chatbot. It is fundamentally Google search reimagined entirely. So what does this mean for all of us Australian businesses? Well, this is really where things start to get pretty real. In the old Google, if you will, the goal was quite simple. It was to rank number one. All you wanted to do was be first in the search rankings and hey, away went your business. In AI mode, there isn't a number one. It's not about your number one and it might choose to show you. Number one doesn't exist because the concept of search has completely changed. Instead, what happens now is AI decides which businesses and brands to feature in its curated answers. So it's doing the decisions for you. That decision is based on three key things: trust, credibility, and local signals. So trust is all the information it's ever collected based on your business over however long. Credibility is how other people have interacted with your business over time and whether you're referenced in other places. But this last one is really key: local signals. So local signals are pretty cool because this can be things like local reviews, or let's get really tricky here. Imagine that it has the ability to know how many people are going in and out of your cafe on the Mornington Peninsula. I know I've picked on that for some strange reason, but how many people are going in and out of your cafe based on foot traffic and road traffic. It can feed that into the results that it shows. So that's a local signal. Now, that's pretty rich data. Google already has that information. If you go to a cafe listing on Google Maps right now, you will see the busy times. You see a little chart that says, now's busy, now is not busy, that kind of stuff. Gyms get that a lot as well, yeah? Those local signals are now fed into the results that it gives you. This isn't traditional search anymore. So what this really means is if your Google business profile, what used to be known as Google My Business, is strong and up to date, you are in a better position. So you need that to be strong, up to date, present. If you've got positive reviews across websites like, say, Product Review, Trustpilot, heck, even Reddit, that counts as well because that all comes down to your credibility piece. And if your content on your website and to some degree your social profiles shows real expertise and authority, not just keyword stuffing that's come from AI content that might have been written by ChatGPT or something else, you're more likely to be highlighted. Because at this juncture, AI is working out what's AI and what isn't, and Google's AI mode is saying, if I know that you have real expertise and authority, then I'm more likely to show you, because it can tell whether it's reading itself or not. The big takeaway here, AI mode rewards businesses that are visible, technically sound, and trusted. Visible, technically sound, and trusted. Now, I have to laugh here because I have a client at the moment in 2025 who doesn't want a website. I'm still not quite sure why, but you need to be visible. You've got to have a website. You've got to have your social profiles there. If you're not, you just don't exist. Technically sound, that's a really interesting one because that's multifaceted. Firstly, the technically sound element from a website metadata point of view. So you need to be technically sound so that the AI bots, principally Google, can read you properly. But secondly, technically sound in your domain. For example, if you were a winery and you have lots of different wines, if all of a sudden you had articles on your website talking about how to change a camshaft in an engine or how to change the oil in your engine, you'd sound a bit silly. That would make you look not technically sound. So it's about being technically sound within your domain. And then, of course, trusted. And trust, well, reality is that builds up over time. But you need to be referenced on review sites. You need to be referenced by other websites. You need to have social profiles that look real, all the stuff that we're all kind of familiar with already, but some of that gets swept under the carpet. Well, the rubber is really going to hit the road here now. This stuff really matters because Google search isn't going to be the same anymore. So, how do you prepare before it launches here, that is? Well, the good news is you can get ahead now. It's fairly easy now to get ahead. And the key here as well is businesses that have done even part of this already, are going to jump the queue in a big way because this isn't something Australia is yet ready for. Here, I have my 4-step action plan for you to help businesses become better prepared fairly easily so that when this does roll out any day now, you'll actually get ahead of the curve. Step 1, optimize your Google My Business profile. Sorry, I'm even using the wrong vernacular. Google Business Profile. So if you haven't already, claim and verify it. That is an absolute no-brainer. It's easy-ish to do, but you need to claim and verify it. Fill out every field that you can. All of the hours, the services, the photos, the website links, phone, even the Q&A section that they have. Fill all that stuff out properly. And make sure your NAP, your NAP, I love how the Americans love their 3-letter acronyms, your name, address, and phone number, your NAP, is consistent everywhere online. So Google will reference that, yeah? If your name varies across different social profiles and websites, that will look uncredible. If your address is different in different spots, that can be a problem. If your phone number changes, again, that can be an issue. So make sure that stuff is consistent because it builds trust. Step number 2, focus on local SEO. Ask happy customers to leave reviews. That's been around for ages, but ask them to do it and do it within preferentially Google, though you can use other platforms as well. Use location-specific keywords, like, for example, Melbourne accountant. And if you serve multiple suburbs, create landing pages for each of them. Now, I hear you scream, hang on, this stuff's been talked about for a decade now. Local landing pages, that's nothing new. Why would I bother with doing anything like that? Everyone's already done that. Here's a key difference. We are moving into the world where AI and chat bots are trying to answer questions for people. So here is the way that you might think about it differently. Historically, local SEO pages would say something like, we are Melbourne accountants, and here is our Cranbourne accountant website, and here is our Frankston accountant website, and here is our Bendigo accountant website. And they're all just landing pages that have exactly the same text on them. They just say Bendigo instead of Melbourne instead of Cranbourne. The key now is in your landing pages, answer the questions that people in those regions might be choosing to ask. For example, it is likely that if you were searching Melbourne accountant, the kind of questions that you would be asking could potentially be corporate. They could be commercially focused. They could be about buying apartments. The kind of questions that people in those regions would be asking would be different from, say, someone in Bendigo, because in Bendigo, it might be more about farm accounting. It could be about being a primary producer. It could be about buying commercial equipment. It could be about buying vehicles. Any of those things would go into what a Bendigo customer might be looking for. Create landing pages that answer those questions specific for those regions, and you'll really jump ahead. Step 3, which flows on more or less from what I just said, strengthen your content. Write for humans. Yes, those people that really buy from you, they're real customers. Write for humans and not algorithms. Answer the real questions that your customers ask. So things like FAQs, lists, clear summaries, case studies. The fact of the matter is AI loves structured data. So don't forget to highlight your expertise when you're doing that, but also highlight your expertise through things like guides, quotes, and how-to posts. Now, you might say again, well, isn't that just blogs? Yeah, it kind of comes in the form of blogs, and many people do use blogs, and that's still relevant, but really think about blogs as guides, quotes, how-tos, articles, stuff like that, things that answer questions for your human customers. Really double down on that stuff, because that is what the chatbots, be they ChatGPT or Google AI, are going to look for. And step 4, stay flexible. When AI mode lands, expect your traffic patterns to change. Now, you might say, oh no, I'm getting fewer clicks, this is a problem. But actually what's happening here is people who do click will be better qualified leads because they're already primed by Google's AI to trust your business. So what's happened here is Google's AI has pre-filtered your website along with however many others and given information to the user or to your potential customer that says you might want to have a look at this business. You might want to have a look at this website. So they already know a bit about you before they land, which means they're much more likely to be valuable customers and potentially better qualified leads than the clicks that you would have historically seen. So you're going to be seeing less clicks, but they're likely to be better qualified. Now, You hear all this and you say, well, that's great, Daniel, but I can't see how this thing works yet because I'm not in the USA, Canada, New Zealand, or India. What do I do? Well, if you want to try AI mode yourself, you can. It's really, really easy. All you have to do is set yourself up a VPN, a virtual private network. And for those of you who don't know how those work, give me a call. I can help you set one up and set it to go to the US. Open Google in your favorite web browser. I would recommend you go in incognito private browsing, whatever it's called on the browser that you're using, because it won't pull through any of your history. So it will make you look as clean as possible with respect to the geography that you're in. Go to Google and then look at the AI mode tab that is at the top of the page next to Maps, Images, and Shopping. Now, I'm sure you're very used to seeing those three tabs. You will see an AI mode beside that. That is where the AI mode is accessible. Search to your heart's content. Have that conversation. See what happens. You'll be getting ahead of the curve. In summary, some final thoughts. Google AI mode is going to be the biggest change to search that we've ever seen. Instead of scrolling through your links and pages of blue lines and underlines and summaries and star ratings and prices, Australians will soon be asking Google questions and getting conversational answers back. People will finally be talking to Google, not just in the form of, hey Google, but rather a full conversation that will answer the questions that they're looking for without them having to do any of the heavy lifting. It is exciting. It is a little scary, but the cold hard reality is this is coming because AI agents will save humans time. Therefore, this will come and it will work. The businesses that prepare early, well, they will be the ones that AI mode chooses to highlight first. So, if I may leave you today with your one to deploy, it would be this. Jump into a VPN, go to the US, see how the AI mode works. Get familiar with that. Then, when thinking about your own website and social content, think about how you can best answer the questions that your real customers have. Don't be pumping your website full of AI-generated keyword stuff content because it doesn't matter anymore. Write content or publish content that is answering the real questions that your real customers have. Write it as if you're writing an email to a human. Apply that filter to when you're generating content on your website, and you will be putting your very best foot forward for when the time comes for AI mode to be turned on here in Australia. So, that is it for today's episode of One to Deploy. If you did find this useful, please, it would mean the world to me if you were to share it with someone who runs a business here in Australia. I'm sure, at least I hope, that they will thank you later. Till then, I'm Daniel Martin. This has been One to Deploy, and think sharp, build bold, one to deploy.